Good morning, good morning, good morning. Your boy did not get any sleep last night. It's Business Express on 98.1 FM. Send your messages. Let me know if you didn't get any sleep last night after what was happening in the global stock markets following the Iranian response to the United States. Who listened to Valentine this morning on Beyond the Quote, where he was talking about making sure that your actions follow your words. Iran's actions definitely followed their words, and they did actually retaliate against the United States. It was about a little after midnight when it started happening. Everybody was glued to Twitter. I have not slept. It was insane. I'll bring you all the financial market reactions to that. Please send your messages 0809 444 0981. We are streaming live on YouTube. You can see how red my eyes are on YouTube. www.youtube.com/smooth91fm. Also, remember the website, www.smooth91.fm. Also follow us on Twitter at smooth91fm. And follow me, Rotan Quotes, ROTANKWOT. My goodness, what a night. Oil. I was actually came in this morning to talk about how oil prices have started to recede after the initial highs that we saw. I think it touched like $70 a barrel from the initial attack from the United States and when tensions were escalating, only for Iran to now start to rain missiles down on two American air bases in Iraq. Oil prices shot back up. Asian markets were trading at the time. The Nikkei, which is in Japan, that was down by about 2%. Gold, if you want to actually trade on volatility and trade on fear, for those of you who have been looking at where to put your money, gold is up to its highest level in about 6 years. It crossed $1,600 an ounce. Gold is a safe haven asset. When things are happening around the world and investors get scared, they park their money in gold. So gold crossed $1,600 this morning. What else happened? Defensive stocks in Asia, some of them climbed as high as 20%. Again, another possible strategy for you if you're looking for how to profit off of wartime instability and so on and so forth. There are a number of stocks in Japan, in China that make military weapons. A number of them were spiking yesterday. The global markets were just insane. Since early, because this happened at about 12:30, a little after midnight, up until almost 3 a.m. Everybody was still wanting to see what happened. Trump has finally come out to say, well, everything is all good. There's been so far no casualties have been reported, but things on ground are still being assessed. But again, for us with oil prices, there's a little bit of the volatility there. They've climbed back up, but then they're just coming down just a little bit. But investors are still very, very skittish with what have been happening. I was looking for was, look, if there were any U.S. casualties, if any U.S. soldiers had been injured or killed, that is when all hell would have broken loose, because you don't know what Mr. Trump would have done, and things would have probably gone a little bit crazy. I think even Bitcoin even climbed a bit. I think Bitcoin is touching about $9,000 as we speak, based on what was happening yesterday. So. Oof, but anyway, so far again, no casualties. We'll keep things where they are. I think Valentine and Ayo talked about this morning. A plane came down in Tehran. Another Boeing, I think it was a 737 or so, leaving from Iran going to Kiev, came down apparently. But they're saying there's no survivors. I think it was about 180 passengers, and it was some kind of glitch, but it was not related to what was happening with the missile attacks. It wasn't related to that. That also happened this morning. So global markets right now are just in a tizzy. It's really nobody wants war. Nobody wants war. This again, I'm sure everybody knows what's happening now. The Iranian general who was targeted, and the word everybody's using now is assassinated, General Suleiman. The Iranian general this is how everything's picked up. Now, Iran has said that it's not going to be an isolated attack. They're saying that they warned the United Arab Emirates, they've warned Israel, warned a number of other countries not to get involved in what's going on. If not, they will be on the receiving end of attacks right now. So things are pretty tense. Now, the key thing is this. Will the United States respond? Donald Trump sent out a tweet, as he's always doing, saying that if they respond in any way, He said that they spent about, I don't know how much he said they spent, but funny enough, somebody on Twitter was asking me about a drone that had killed Mr. Suleiman. It was a $64 million drone. In naira terms, this drone is about $23 billion, 23 billion naira. It's higher than the IGR of some of our states, yeah. And this individual on Twitter was asking me, "Oh, Rotus, do we have this tech? Do we have this intelligence in Nigeria?" I was like, "Bros, we don't have it." The United States in 2018 spent 623, estimated according to NATO, to have spent $623 billion on defense. If you remove that 600 and just leave the 23 billion, that's Nigeria's budget. So their military budget alone is over 600 times our entire budget for our country. So the question now is, will America respond? Based on Trump's tweets, it seems like he doesn't want to escalate things for that. I don't know what's going to happen, but one of their senators said this is an act of war because it was an act of aggression on a US airbase. So will the United States react? Everybody doesn't know, but still the key thing to look at here is oil prices. I think US futures were also down. Look at defensive stocks, look at oil prices, look at Bitcoin, look at gold, right? These are the things to be taken a look at in this heightened tense time that we're in right now. Moving on from there, there's some data I want to attack. We're going to be looking at some data this morning here. Okay, at Bitcoin, I'm saying 8,345 is what Bitcoin is. So not quite at the $9,000 highs. Thanks for that, Valentine. We're looking at some data here at home. Let's turn things in. And I haven't forgotten your questions on Overwood Investments, Cowrywise, PiggyVest, and a number of other things. Let's look at some data here. Yeah, there was a report that came out from the World Economic Forum in December of 2018. They were talking about the 10 fastest growing cities in the world. All 10 came from India. And they gave reasons why, right? I think Surat, which is in the state of Gujarat in India, is to have the fastest economic growth in the world. Why? Because of its strong IT sector. It's also that was what they attributed to that, because of its strong IT sector. Second place was a city called Agra, which is where the Taj Mahal is a big tourist attraction. That tourism was part of that. They also mentioned Bengaluru, which is supposed to be India's Silicon Valley. Anyway, the World Economic Forum gave reasons for this. They also included a chart. I'll tweet all this. You'll see all these images again on our Smooth FM Twitter handle at Smooth91FM. Based on GDP in constant 2018 prices, New York, Tokyo, Los Angeles, London, Shanghai. Based on GDP growth year on year, Bengaluru, Dhaka, Mumbai, they're looking at a number of cities, right? Based on population is where Nigeria now came into the fray. I think Lagos was top 7 or so. Now, this is the World Economic Forum. Just yesterday, right, The Economist released its own top 10 fastest growing cities, right? Now, let's pay attention to this. Fastest growing cities. And in fact, they've got this pretty cool app called, I think it's the World in Figures. It's an app that shows different figures based on their own projections. Now, this fastest growing cities percentage change over the last 5 years. They had Malappuram in India, Chanto in Vietnam, Sichuan in China, Kozhikode in India, and then Abuja. And I stopped. And I said, what? Abuja? Not Lagos, so not Kaduna or Kano, Abuja. I was a little stunned. Maybe somebody out there can help me with this data that came out for The Economist. I'm not quite sure how Abuja counts as one of the top fastest growing cities. Folks, is there anything happening in Abuja that we're not aware of? Again, if you were to attribute any type of growth in Abuja, what would be the basis? I'm a little lost. I don't know if anyone can help me. I'm still trying to figure out exactly why they put Abuja in there and what is behind the growth. As far as activities, it's pretty much government, right? It's government activity that's in the capital, right? That attracts any type of activity to Abuja. So I'm not quite sure what The Economist was looking at, as far as the growth there. But it's other China was there, some other cities there, the United Arab Emirates, Oman, and then India. So again, this is according to The Economist, which is why I wanted to mention first the World Economic Forum and their data versus what The Economist was bringing out. Some more data. I don't know how many folks heard this. We're moving from that to billionaires. How many heard that Alhaji, the Alhaji we're talking about, the one who's building the refinery, heard that in 2019, his net worth increased by $4 billion. Bloomberg carried this story. They said that his net worth increased by $4.3 billion in 2019. And I scratched my head and I said, how? How is it that his wealth increased? What exactly did he do? Because if you remember, somebody sent in a message here asking about Dangote Cement doing share buybacks. Companies sometimes buy back their shares, reduce their outstanding shares. You know, it's something that they purchase back from, it helps their metrics, their share metrics to increase when the outstanding shares are reduced. The rumor, again, I'm going to have to really preface this and be careful here, is that Dangote is the person who was really selling back his shares to the company in order to have funds to continue to build the refinery. He spent a lot of money on his refinery, like a lot, right? A whole lot of money in the refinery. So how is it that his wealth increased? Where could it have increased from? Okay, there's also the richest man in India. I can't remember his name, but somebody tweeted about him. I think her name is the Ninja Flying Doctor. She tweets a lot about economics. She posted a video on Bloomberg where they were talking about the richest man in India, how his wealth increased. And they specifically mentioned investments that he had made and how they had paid off and how his wealth increased. This was the same Bloomberg, they were talking about it on their network television station. So I said, okay, why didn't Bloomberg attach this same analysis to Dangote's wealth in their article? Didn't see anything. Now, up comes Nairametrics. There's an article in Nairametrics that just came out yesterday, and this is for the purpose of comparison. The headline is How Billionaires Performed on the Nigerian Stock Exchange in 2019. Who gained and who lost? I really do want you all to read this article. What they did, what Nairametrics is, and this is how it gives you an idea of how to, understand how billionaires and so on, people gain wealth. It's like you and I, we're all investors now. If our investments increase, our wealth increases, right? So they looked at the number of billionaires, they looked at the number of shares. They simply took the number of shares that each of these billionaires held, Mr. Jim Ovia, Mr. Tony Elumelu, and some other folks, including Dangote, and they pretty much calculated how much the shares were worth at the beginning of 2019 versus how much the shares were worth at the end of 2019. They looked at the number of shares. Like, so for instance, for Mr. Tomi Lumelu, they looked at United Bank of Africa share price at the beginning of 2019, share price at the end. They looked at, for Mr. Jim Ovia, share price of Zenith Bank at the beginning of, because again, Mr. Lumelu is a majority shareholder in UBA, Mr. Jim Ovia, majority shareholder in Zenith Bank. So stuff like that. Now, we all know how the stock market did. Abi, stock market was the end of the year down about 15%. So each of these individuals lost. When it came to Dangote, it's a long article. I just want to summarize. They pretty much took Dangote Cement, Dangote Sugar, and I think Nascon as well. Yes, Nascon, because Dangote is a majority shareholder in each of these. They didn't actually took his shareholdings in his flour business because remember, Olam acquired Dangote flour mill, so they didn't include that. But when they put everything collectively, it says here, let me just quote Nairametrics. It can be seen that the paper value of Aliko Dangote's entire shareholdings in Dangote Cement, Dangote Sugar, and Nascon collectively reduced by a whopping 31 billion naira. Now, in dollar terms, it's not that much. It's only about $87 million. But the fact is that it went down. Right, and it went down for each of any one of these billionaires. So please, I just want you to put this in your mind when they tell you, or at least, and I love Bloomberg. I respect them a lot, but again, I wish there was more specifics on how his wealth increased. Because if we look at the Nairametrics article, which went in detail, he lost value that year. And again, one more time, he's been spending so much money on this refinery. I hear him even be getting loans, selling shares. I don't see how his net worth increased in 2019. Let's take some messages here. Okay, Yinka. Okay, I remember this now. Yinka was asking me yesterday about the news, the latest news, if there's anything that's come out of the Bankers Committee, who back in June, Yinka, I see your message. I'm going to respond to you right now. Back in June, the Bankers Committee said that they were looking at using 25% of retirement savings accounts or pensions as equity for mortgages. By the way, speaking of mortgages, there's a real estate conference that I'm going to be attending later on this morning. So when we try and see if I can get some information there. But Yinka, to your question, there hasn't been any update. That was back in June. They had the bankers committee proposed it that they're looking at having Nigerians use up to 25% of their retirement savings accounts, in order to use as a down payment on equity down payment for mortgages. We have not heard anything since, so we're still waiting on that. Okay, I think it was another Benga, I think, that asked me about overward investments. Now look, guys, again, follow Mr. Tayo Oye on Twitter. I am not invested in overwood investments. From the looks of things, what he's doing looks legit. Listen, I can stand up today, Valentine, Ayo, J-Lo, Benga Kamu, Prince, Yinka, Isaac, anybody can come and say, hey guys, I'm starting an investment scheme. Bring your money. Let me manage it for you. The first thing you have to ask is, sir, what are your qualifications? Rotus, are you qualified to do this? Valentine, are you qualified to do this? Benga, Yinka, are you qualified to do this? What are your qualifications? Then two, you look at the history of the investments and how they performed. Overwood looks legit from the outside. I can't, Mr. Tayoye he seems pretty qualified. He's got a number of investment qualifications, but you would have to do your due diligence. All right. So I can't really give you a specific answer on Overwood. I think it was now Seke who asked yesterday about Carrywise, and I think it was Piggyvest. Carrywise, I do know the management, right? Mr. Razak Ahmed, he's a CFA, Chartered Financial Analyst. He's a very competent man. Carrywise, what I would ask is to download the app, take a look at what they're doing. There is always a risk with every investment that you want to look at, right? There is always, no matter how good management is, but take a look at what it is that they're doing. Take a look at the partnerships that they're making with other investment houses. I've also heard Piggyvest. I don't have the app, haven't downloaded it, but the anecdotes that I've seen on Twitter, on social media, they seem good. Seems like they're well managed. However, there was a rumor yesterday or 2 days ago saying that Piggyvest was offering a 40% return if you're to put your money away for over 2 years. That is false. It is false. Let me just kill that rumor right now. What else is there? What else did I get into? What other question did I not answer? Okay, let me see some quick messages. Valentine, how much time do we have? Are we okay? Okay, 2 minutes. Okay, good. Lekon from Oshidi says, good morning, Rotus. Maybe they already value the refinery as part of Dangote's assets. Yeah, but Lekon, the refinery isn't even complete. They said it was going to be complete in 2020, then 2021. Now we're looking at maybe 2022. We can't put that yet because he hasn't even completed the refinery, so you can't even value the asset. Let's see. Kelvin here says, good morning, Rotus. Will the value of his refinery be excluded from the network calculation? Okay, everybody's asking about refinery. Again, you can't value the refinery right now. It's not complete. It's not in operation. Would you invest in an asset that's not yet completed? Would you invest in a building that hasn't been complete? If I tell you I'm going into real estate and I'm going to put up a building that's supposed to do business, or a hotel, would you invest in it before it's complete? Let's see. Kufre. Let's see here. Kufre is coming back on what I said about the Piggyvest. It isn't a rumor. It's on their app. About 42% for almost 3-year period. It's on the app. Really, Kufre. Okay. I asked somebody who has the app and they said it was false. I will go back and I will check. I will check again on that again because they told me that was false. So thank you for that, Kufre. Let's see here. This is Bumi. Hi, Rotus. The billionaire Dangote received dividend from all those companies, which is cash. His wealth increased while stock holdings dropped in value. Is very possible. So you're looking at dividends. Bumi. Again, based on the numbers, share value, dividends, yes, but then capital appreciation, you have to put that into perspective as well. Valentine, we're wrapping up. That's it? Okay, Lagos. I will catch you guys tomorrow. Thanks for tuning in. Stay safe. War is not great.
Brought to you by Interstretch.